The following podcast is a part of RadioMisfits.com. And now it's time for the Mr. Nailsin Show. Was a family and their town cursed by a witch? Perhaps, but maybe not. The Bell Witch, or Bell Witch hunting, is a legend from southern United States folklore, centered on the 19th century Bell family of northwest Robertson County, Tennessee. Farmer John Bell Sr. resided with his family along the Red River in an area currently near the town of Adams. According to legend, from 1817 to 1821, his family and the local area came under attack by a mostly invisible entity that was able to speak, affect the physical environment, and shapeshift. Some accounts record the spirit also to have been clairvoyant and capable of crossing long distances with superhuman speed, or of being in more than one place. In 1894, newspaper editor Martin V. Ingram published his authenticated history of the Bell Witch. The book is widely regarded as the first full-length record of the legend and a primary source for subsequent treatments. The individuals recorded in the work were known historical personalities. In modern times, some skeptics have regarded Ingram's efforts as a work of historical fiction or fraud. Other researchers consider Ingram's work a nascent folklore study and an accurate reflection of belief in the region during the 19th century. While not a fundamental element of the original recorded legend, the Bell Witch Cave in the 20th century became a source of continuing interest, belief, and generation of lore. Contemporary artistic interpretations, such as in film and music, have expanded the reach of the legend beyond the regional confines of the southern United States. In his book, An Authenticated History of the Bell Witch, author Martin V. Ingram published that the poltergeist's name was Kate, after the entity claimed at one point to be Old Kate Bat's Witch, and continued to respond favorably to the name. The physical activity centered on the Bell's youngest daughter, Betsy, and her father, and Kate expressed particular displeasure when Betsy became engaged to a local named Joshua Gardner. The haunting began in 1817 when John Bell witnessed the apparition of a strange creature resembling a dog with the head of a rabbit. Bell fired at the animal, but it disappeared. John's son, Drew Bell, approached an unknown bird perched on a fence that flew off and was of extraordinary size. The daughter, Betsy, observed a girl in a green dress swinging from the limb of an oak tree. Dean, a slave belonging to the Bell family, reported being followed by a large black dog on evenings he visited his wife. Activity moved to the Bell household, with knocking heard along the door and walls. The family heard sounds of gnawing on the beds, invisible dogs fighting in chains along the floor. About this time, John Bell began experiencing paralysis in his mouth. The phenomena grew in intensity as sheets were pulled from beds when the children slept. Soon the entity pulled hair and scratched the children with particular emphasis on Betsy, who was slapped, pinched, and stuck with pins. The Bells turned to family friend James Johnson for help. After retiring for the evening at the Bell home, Johnston was awakened that night by the same phenomena. That morning he told John Bell it was a spirit, just like in the Bible. Soon word of the haunting spread, with some traveling great distances to see the witch. The apparition began to speak out loud and was asked, "Who are you, and what do you want?" And the voice answered feebly, "I am a spirit. I was once very happy, but have been disturbed." The spirit offered diverse explanations of why it had appeared, tying its origin to the disturbance of a Native American burial mound located on the property, and sent Drew Bell and Bennett Porter on an unproductive search for buried treasure. With the emergence of full conversations, the spirit repeated word for word 2 sermons given 13 miles apart at the same time. The entity was well acquainted with biblical texts and appeared to enjoy religious arguments. As another amusement, the witch shared gossip about activities in other households and at times appeared to leave for brief moments to visit homes after an inquiry. John Johnston, a son of James, devised a test for the witch, something no one outside his family would know, asking the entity what his Dutch step-grandmother in North Carolina would say to the slaves if she thought they did something wrong. The witch replied with his grandmother's accent, "Hut, tut. What has happened now?" In another account, an Englishman stopped to visit and offered to investigate. On remarking on his family overseas, the witch suddenly began to mimic his English parents. Again, in the early morning, the witch woke him to voices of his parents, worried as they had heard his voice as well. The Englishman quickly left that morning and later wrote to the Bell family that the entity had visited his family in England. He apologized for his skepticism. At times, the spirit displayed a form of kindness, especially towards Lucy, John Bell's wife. The most perfect woman to walk the earth, the witch would give Lucy fresh fruit and sing hymns to her, and show John Bell Jr. a measure of respect. Referring to John Bell Sr. as Old Jack, the witch claimed she intended to kill him, and signaled this intention through curses, threats, and afflictions. The story climaxes with the Bell patriarch being poisoned by the witch. Afterward, the entity interrupted the mourners by singing drinking songs. In 1821, as a result of the witch's entreatment, Betsy Bell called off her engagement to Joshua Gardner. Subsequently, the entity told the family it was going to leave, but return in 7 years in 1828. The witch returned on time to Lucy and her sons Richard and Joel with similar activities as before, but they chose not to encourage it, and the witch appeared to leave again. Several accounts say that during his military career, Andrew Jackson was intrigued with the story, and his men were frightened away after traveling to investigate. In an independent oral tradition recorded in the vicinity of Panola County, Mississippi, the witch was the ghost of an unpleasant overseer John Bell murdered in North Carolina. In this tradition, the spirit falls in love with the central character Mary, leading to her death. This account is reminiscent of vampire lore. The supernatural powers attributed to the Tennessee spirit have also been compared to that of jinn in mythology. In the manuscript attributed to Richard Williams Bell, he wrote that the spirit remained a mystery. Whether it was witchery, such as afflicted people in past centuries and the darker ages, whether some gifted fiend of hellish nature practicing sorcery for selfish enjoyment, or some more modern science akin to that of mesmerism, or some hobgoblin native to the wilds of the country, or a disembodied soul shut out from heaven, or an evil spirit like those Paul drove out of the man into the swine, setting them mad, or a demon let loose from hell, I am unable to decide, nor has anyone yet divined its nature or cause for appearing. And I trust this description of the monster in all forms and shapes and of many tongues will lead experts who may come with a wiser generation to correct confusion and satisfactory explanation. Williams Bell, An Authenticated History of the Bell Witch, Chapter 8. Military officer John R. Bell joined the Stephen Harriman Long expedition in 1820 to explore the Central Great Plains. Due to lack of provisions, Long and Bell led divided parties after they reached the Rocky Mountains and rejoined in Fort Smith, Arkansas. Bell kept a detailed journal of his travel. His return trip on October 19, 1820, crossed the Red River at Port Royal, Tennessee. Later that day, Bell stopped at the Murphy residence in Robertson County to eat dinner. During the stay, Bell was told of a young woman accompanied by a voice. The voice wished for the woman to marry a local man, and thousands had traveled to hear it. The journal's connection to the Bell Witch legend was discussed by local historian David Britton during a television broadcast produced for the Disney Channel in November 2020. Rather a singular circumstance was here related to me, of a young girl of about 15 years of age residing but 3 miles from Murphy. A voice accompanies her which says she should marry a man, a neighbor. Thousands of persons have visited to hear his voice in many instances. It will reply to questions put to it. The visitors have left a little satisfied in their curiosity, as before they heard it, many under the impression that it is ventriloquism, imposed upon the hearers either by the girl or her brother, who it seems is generally in her company. Her family is respectable. John R. Bell, the Journal of Captain John R. Bell. The publications New England Farmer of Boston and the Green Mountain Freeman of Vermont in January and February 1856 published an article regarding the Bell Witch legend, and the publications ascribed the origin of the text to the Saturday Evening Post. The Farmer was a weekly agricultural journal. The Freeman was affiliated with the Abolitionist Liberty Party. The unidentified author described the apparition as the Tennessee Ghost or Bell Ghost and stated the event occurred 30 years or more from the time the article was written. There are 3 human characters in the account: Mr. Bell, his daughter Betsy Bell, and Joshua Gardner. The author stated that the voice, which spoke freely about the house from all directions, would not manifest itself until the lights were extinguished at night. The phenomenon attracted wide interest. The author claimed to have become well acquainted with Mr. Gardner. When the ghost was asked how long it would remain, it replied, "Until Joshua Gardner and Betsy Bell get married." The author goes on to state that Betsy Bell had fallen in love with Joshua Gardner and had discovered the skill of ventriloquism. The author states that Miss Bell then used her skill to attempt to convince Joshua Gardner to marry her. When they did not marry, the apparition disappeared. About 1849, the Saturday Evening Post published, either in Philadelphia or New York, printed a long sketch of the Bell Witch phenomenon, written by a reporter who made a strenuous effort in the details to connect her with the authorship of the demonstrations. Mrs. Powell was so outraged by the publication that she engaged a lawyer to institute suit for libel. The matter, however, was settled without litigation. The paper retracted the changes, explaining how this version of the story had gained credence, and the fact that, at the time the demonstrations commenced, Betsy Bell had scarcely advanced from the stage of childhood and was too young to have been capable of originating and practicing so great a deception. The fact also that after this report had gained circulation, she had submitted to any and every test that the wits of detectives could invent to prove the theory. And all the stratagems employed served only to demonstrate her innocence and utter ignorance of the agency of the so-called witchery, and was herself the greatest sufferer from the affliction. In September 1868, one article was published entitled "Witchcraft and Murder, Hobgoblins and Old Gray Horses, the Incentive to Crime." Tom Clinard and Dick Burgess were arrested for the murder of Mr. Smith. The article reported that Smith claimed the powers of witchcraft while working near Adams Station, chopping wood on a farm with the defendants. The article stated that Smith claimed to see these occult powers on Clinard and Burgess, leading to the conflict between them. The identity of the decedent was reported variously as James or Charles Smith. The jury of State versus Clinard and Burgess returned a not guilty verdict. Ingram published in an interview with Lucinda E. Rawls of Clarksville, Tennessee, daughter of Alexander Gooch and Finney Thorne, both reported as close friends of Betsy Bell. Rawls testified that the Bell Witch was a frequent topic of conversation during her lifetime and pointed to a murder of a man for witchcraft as evidence for this claim. The Bell Witch was and is a great scapegoat. Every circumstance out of the regular order of things is attributed to the witch. It has not been long since the man claiming to be the witch was waylaid and murdered by two men who were cleared on the plea that the murdered man had bewitched them. Lucinda Rawls, An Authenticated History of the Bell Witch, Chapter 12. Well, it just goes on and on. Not all of which the details can be substantiated. Certainly not the aspects of the supernatural, but whether or not these different peoples actually reported this or not. Well, some are and some aren't. There's specifically Andrew Jackson, and no one can really substantiate if he ever visited the Bell household or any sort of that sort of thing. But who's to say? Perhaps, but maybe not, you know. But the legend lived on and eventually made it into the 20th century. A prophecy was reported by May 1903 that the witch could return on the centennial of the Bell family arrival in Tennessee. In response to an August 1903 article from Memphis, the Springfield Herald expressed that no one in the local area was concerned with the return of the Bell Witch, and made a charge of plagiarism towards the Memphis paper. The Herald also stated the copyright for Ingram's work had passed to his son, Tolbert, who was working at the Denver Times. By September, the local paper was again incredulous, as the spirit was not reported to have returned in August. Charles Bailey Bell, a grandson of John Bell Jr. and neurologist in Nashville, published a book entitled The Bell Witch, A Mysterious Spirit in 1934. In the work, he recounted stories he stated were told to him by his great-aunt Betsy later in her life. These included another account of Andrew Jackson's visit and of a boy trapped in the Bell Witch Cave and pulled out of the cave feet first by the witch. Bell also detailed a series of prophecies he stated were given to his ancestors in 1828 by the spirit, including a declaration the witch was set to return again in 1935, 107 years after her last visit to the Bell family. In 1937, there were reports of quirky events. Lewis Garrison, owner of the farm that included the Bell Witch Cave, heard unexplained noises coming from inside. Bell descendants described the sounds of something rubbing against the house, a vapor-like object that flew out the door and re-entered through a side door, and a faint music heard from a piano. A group from the local Epworth League were reported to have attended a wiener roast in a rock quarry near the Bell Witch Cave on July 29, 1937. The group were joking about the legend when they saw a figure of a woman sitting on top of the cliff over the cave, causing many to flee. According to the newspaper, a minister in the group later claimed to have investigated and discovered it was moonlight on a rock. The second report concluded with a weather report that the moon was barely noticeable that night. Jim Brooks published in 2015 that his mother was in attendance at the roast and relates that the minister caught up to the youth on the road to town after discovering no explanation for the figure. In November 1965, an article was published involving an antique oak rocking chair said to have been previously owned by attorney Charlie Willett, a Bell descendant. The rocking chair was acquired in Willett's estate sale by Mrs. J.C. Adams, owner of an antique store on US 41. A customer sat down in the chair after learning it was not for sale, and while rocking in the chair asked Mrs. Adams if she believed in the supernatural. 2 weeks later, the customer's daughter visited the home of Mrs. Adams and said after her mother had left and visited the Bell Cemetery, a voice told her to stand up and look around. You will find something of much value. After some card trouble, the woman walked out into a field and found a black iron kettle turned over. She turned the kettle over and found a pearl buckle in the grass. The woman's daughter reported a jeweler estimated the buckle to be 160 to 200 years old. After Charles Romaine Willett, son of Sarah Elizabeth Bell, began an interest in the newspaper business at the age of 16. After some time playing professional baseball and working at other newspapers, Willett became the first managing editor of the Nashville Tennessean in 1907 while teaching himself law. A mayor of Adams and member of the state legislature, Charles Willett is known for his reliability. Every Sunday, Willett would accompany his sweetheart, Miss Jerry Cullum Gardner, for ice cream in Clarksville and dinner at Richard's restaurant on the return home. According to community lore, the couple never married so as not to tempt fate, as they descended from the Bell and Gardner families, respectively. Jim Brooks relates that a family member detailed familial obligations as the likely explanation. Brooks inquired what the couple thought about the rumor in the early 1960s. Jerry Gardner explained if Charlie Willett ever asked her to marry him, she would assent. When Brooks related this to Charlie Willett, he immediately smiled, pulled his thumbs through his suspenders, and said, "Oh, she said that, did she?" Bonnie Handline in 1977 recounted a time during her childhood in 1944 when she was exploring the cave. She left English class, playing hooky, and borrowed a lantern from Mrs. Garrison, the cave owner. She reported to have explored the cave with her friends for several years. While she was inside, her lantern blew out despite no breeze inside the cave. She managed to relight the lantern, and it blew out again. Terrified, she crawled along the water path of the cave in the dark until she reached the entrance, where she saw an opened can of pork and beans and marshmallows. Later that evening, she learned that law enforcement discovered 2 escaped fugitives in the back of the cave. She credited the witch with helping her avoid them. A visit in 1977 was reported of 5 soldiers from nearby Fort Campbell to the Bell Witch Cave. One of the soldiers was sitting on a rock and expressed skepticism of the legend when something invisible grabbed him around the chest. In 1986, staff writer David Gerard for the Tennessean and photographer Bill Wilson, the latter also a member of the National Spellological Society, I don't know, were given permission to sleep in the cave overnight. While in the first cave room, they heard a noise from deeper in the cave Gerard estimated at 30 yards. Subsequently, an unwavering groan repeated, again with greater volume, and accompanied by several loud thumps. When it began a third time, the men retreated to the gate entrance. They explored the wiring to the lights, looking for a reason for the noises. They went back to the first cave room, but heard a rumble near the entrance. Walking back to the entrance, they discovered the rumble was noise from a jet. As they reached the gate, a loud, high-pitched scream emanated from inside the cave. The journalist left and did not spend the night. In 1987, H.C. Sanders, owner of a nearby gas station, reported 20 years earlier he ran out of gas at night near the Red River across from the Bell Witch Cave. He began to walk towards town when a rabbit came out of the woods and began to follow him. Sanders walked faster, but the rabbit kept pace even as he broke out into a run. After a mile, Sanders sat down on a log to catch his breath. The rabbit hopped up on the other side of the log, looked at him, and said, "Hell of a race we had there, wasn't it?" Well, there's more where that came from. But ultimately the question boils down to, is there a spirit, perhaps more mischievous than wicked, that haunts the state of Tennessee? Perhaps, but maybe not.
What? But you wouldn't. You couldn't.
Couldn't I? Now let's... Oh, damn it. Oh, no! It's already started. Now shut up and listen. Concentrate on the gun. This is your main threat. Ignore everything else. Concentrate on the gun and follow me to the boats. It's our only hope of escaping this hell.
But Edgar!
Leave him. Sadly, as far as hell goes, he's already dead. I am so sorry, baby. Oh, baby. Damn it! What is this?
I don't know.
Are they ghosts? Yeah, they're ghosts! Damn it, man! The whole ship was a ghost ship! And now it merged with us! No, come on, this is nuts!
Oh my God, it's the passengers. It's them. That's me over there. Oh my God, it's
Sarah,
me.
Sarah, hold on. Hell, Sarah, stay with it. We gotta stay together. We gotta focus on this. We gotta figure out where we... Sam, come on, man. The perp went down the alley. Pursue him. I'm going to go around the building and cut him off at the end. Come on, let's go. Oh, what? Kelly? Right. I'm on it. Stop!
Stop right now. Stop where you are. Show me your hands. Show me your hands. Don't do it. Don't go for it. Don't do it. Oh, damn it. Damn it.
Whoa. All right, Sam, all right. Take a breather now. He's going for his weapon. I had no choice, Kelly. I got you. Oh, damn it. He can't be a day over 13. Oh, shit. What? It wasn't a gun, Sam. It was a phone.
Sam, where are you, Sam?
Sally, come on in here.
Mr. Morgan.
I'm gonna need to have a little chit-chat with you, is all.
Yes, Mr. Morgan.
Now, Sally, I'm an important man in these parts and beyond. I've made a lot of enemies out there and too few friends. But really, it all boils down to just you, Sally. You're the only one I can really trust. And I'm sure, you know, I've grown very, very fond of you, Sally.
Well,
I pay you well, I do. But, well, I was thinking of a closer arrangement, which has greater rewards. Basically, you get to partake of my empire.
I don't know, Jake. I just can't believe this is happening.
Oh, baby, I can believe it. Yeah, that cute booty of yours will charm the devil. And, yeah, that's what it seems to be happening right now. Now, listen, he's done giving you the keys to the kingdom. All you gotta do is go where the money is, and you know where that is. And you do like the song said. You grab it and you run. You and me, baby, on the run.
Well, it's just, I never really seen him like this. He's kind of sad and vulnerable.
No, don't go be getting soft, baby. You know I love how soft you can be. I mean, you charmed me too. But don't forget what he is. Don't you go dropping a single tear on that bastard.
Well, I mean, look, he's gonna know it was me. I'm the only one who has access.
Yeah, but so what? What's he gonna do? Call the police? Nah. The feds starts poking their noses in his business. That's his ass.
Yeah, but Jake, come on. There's a reason why people call him Boss Morgan.
Well, that's the run part of the song, baby. Don't you know? You take the money and you run. You and me, baby. Free and clear.
Yeah, we could just run and become someone else entirely and escape ourselves.
Damn, baby, that's poetry. But now you're talking. Yeah, now you're talking.
You have been listening to The Cruise, written, performed, and produced by me, Douglas Nailsin. Any and all music is courtesy of Kevin MacLeod and other public domain and copyright-free sources.
The views and opinions expressed during the Mr. Nailsin Show do not necessarily reflect those held by RadioMisfits.com. So, any complaints and or comments should be sent to @Mr. Nailsin on Twitter, where they will be promptly ignored and or blocked.